Yep. All right, so my name is Matthew Durfee. I just got done competing at the Western Michigan. I'm 5'6", 5'6 and a quarter. My weight right now is roughly 184 in the morning. I'm at the Western. I competed in light heavyweight this past Saturday, where I weighed 180. This was just a qualifier, as I'm right now prepping for nationals, where I'd be dropping down to middleweight and potentially competing in classic. By classic, last year I did compete at nationals and North Americans, but at North Americans I was 5'6 and a quarter. Nationals they had me at 5'6. So because of the height difference in classic, if they had me at 5'6 exactly again, I'd make 170 versus 175, and I wouldn't want to drop down that low again, as it affected me last time. So with that said, let's do open middleweight and potentially cross over if my height allows me to at 175. And right now with cardio, my cardio has been at least generally on average an hour a day, every day. Some days I'll do up to 2 hours, where the second hour, which is all Stairmaster, it'll be a lower intensity, just more of a cool down, get my heart rate back down, and just depending on how my body's feeling. If my legs are not feeling like too heavy, keep going. Diet wise, we did drop the carbs for a minute. They're back up to roughly, right now, back to the 24 ounces of potatoes a day, half cup of oats, which for all my carbs. The carbs were lower, but we pulled the fats back out. I think I respond better to moderate carbs and low fat, just mentally, because when I go too low carb, I get cravings too bad, and then they affect me in a negative way. So, but other than that, protein's moderate, nothing too high. Calories were going low, 1700 going into the show. Going for the past several weeks is about 1900, 2000, up to 2000, depending on the day. So this prep has been a little rough. Back in September, right the week after Labor Day, I did tear my pec. I was trying to bench 515, weighing about 200, a little bit dry. Then I ended up tearing my right pec. So that mentally is like I wasn't sure if I was going to have to get surgery. Went to the ER. I mean, the CT scan didn't show a tear, but where the tear was, it was just hard for them to show it because they couldn't see that area. The swollen, probably all swollen, because I mean the CT scan, I couldn't raise my arm up over my head like normally how you would. So that arm was down to the side, so that's why I hid the tear. So that took me out a little bit, because I mean I couldn't really lift my arm up, couldn't even unbuckle my seatbelt that well. No, right before I did that, I hit 495 pretty clean. I've hit 500 on multiple occasions. Always at the 500. I'd attempt 515. I hit 500 earlier in February, which went really fast. But at that point, I just wanted to pull back, just so I wouldn't hurt myself then, because it's the first time I went over 400 in over a year. But I mean, I've done powerlifting. So 2 years ago, I did the Michigan State bodybuilding competition, where I competed in classic. Then I ended up, like 5 days after that show, I competed in a bench press for APF powerlifting, where I hit 446 in competition at 181 body weight, which actually set the national record then. Even then, I also had already shoulder issues from potential tear on my left side, more of a micro tear. And what was it? Yeah, so instead of taking a more moderate third attempt, I went right from 446 to 481, try to go for the world record in that federation. Instead of taking because in APF you can do like 4 attempts if the fourth attempt is a world record, but I didn't even want to do a third attempt where I would probably hit about 465, and I didn't want to do that, because then I'm like, you know what? Potentially, if I take a fourth attempt, then I'm going to hurt myself at that point. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? We'll play it safer anyways. So bench press has always been one of my strong suits. I mean, even back in high school, at 145 pounds, 148 pounds, I hit over 300 multiple times. So I used to compete USAPL, where I've done like 313 in competition at 148, which, with USAPL, it's a little bit different, because you weigh the morning of, where APF, you do get a 24-hour weigh-in rule, so that does help with putting a little water weight back on after the fact. So that's why I like the AEPF initially, is to allow myself to put some water weight back on after making weight. Eventually I was going to try to train for a full meet, but I just had too many hip issues with my back, and I was like, it's not even worth it, because I just wanted to be more safe than sorry. Versus pushing certain numbers, and I had other injuries that's prevented me from doing that.
We were talking off camera because like your trap development, your delt development is pretty crazy. Your tricep development. Go ahead and explain why you think that's a lot of that.
Well, my triceps, I know I've always had them. Cause I literally remember in high school, one of the kids asked. Well, it was after school, but the one baseball coach was there, and when the kid made comment about the traps, like, well, that's, he even straight up said that's just genetics. So I mean, genetically speaking, I've always had a bigger chest, bigger triceps. Cause I mean, I used to get made fun of in high school, like just in gym class doing jump ropes. Cause I mean, when you have bigger chest, basically you have boobs that go up and down as a fit person. So I've always been joked around about with that. But I've always been, like, bench press has always been my go-to, even as a kid growing up. It's just always been the bread and butter for me mentally. Just always love pushing heavy weight. So I think just going forward, and I used to love doing heavy dips. Like I used to load up 5 plates on a dip belt and do those for reps. Now I won't, because my shoulders, I'll blow up with my injuries. But so like I said, heavy triceps, heavy bench has always been something I loved. Just because I see the development there. Through the delts, I mean, besides getting lean, I'd have to say a lot, like in the traps, it's a lot of the bench press has also helped with the delt development a lot. Granted, back in high school, I would say that my bench press form is not the greatest, being that I'm from up north. We didn't have powerlifting up there, so no one really taught proper form. Well, nowadays there are schools that do have like the powerlifting like the Texas does a lot, but I think there's schools here too that have it. So. Yeah, well, yeah, but the big thing is, with that said, is it's like back then. So how the form is my elbows are more flared. So I'd be the bench basically perpendicular to my body versus tucking the elbows in to have the natural groove of motion with the triceps. So I think that's one thing that developed my delts a lot as a younger person too, potentially, is through bad bench form. The one thing I believe I do need to bring up the most would be my glutes. Is I just need to do more glute isolation. As we were talking before, I'm more quad dominant when I do like leg movements, just because I do have a curve in my spine. So naturally, I lean forward more because I can't keep like a flat back. So with that said, is I think I always put more emphasis on my quads and calves when squatting, opposed to like my glutes. So I just need to find more things to figure out how to do isolation on my glutes better when training. Just got to have a better game plan when training that. But after I competed at what year was it? 2016, I think I did the Grand Rapids. After that show, I did want to bring my legs up. Then, I mean, I competed like as a lightweight at 152, somewhere in that range. Yeah. But I have a more unorthodox training method of. I don't have like some people have like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They do a certain thing every day. It's if there's a certain muscle group that I want to focus on the most, I train that more frequently. So after the show, I hit legs like it's either every other day or every third day. By that, now I do like a more quad dominant and a glute and a hamstring dominant day. So with that said, is every other day I'd train legs, but depending on how my recovery was, I may needed to do it the third day. Just and then in between those days, I'd fill in with back, chest, whatever the case was, and I listen to my body on. All right, do I hit legs today, or do I wait till the next day in that method? And lately, in this past year, I've been doing that with back a lot more, especially now after I have the chest hair. Is that takes away a major movement in the gym, so I do hit back even that much more frequent now, as that's one area I wanted to bring up a lot. And I feel based on this past show, I've made better improvements on trying to work on the width. Is 'cause one thing I do struggle with is flexibility. That could be a lot from the heavy lifting too. So just trying to open up. So I've been trying to work on the upper width more than anything. And like I said, from looking at my past photos, it's improving. So I'm happy there. So, but with the unorthodox schedule, it's like, yeah, I listen to my body more than anything. No, I mean, I play it by how I feel. Different movements, different joints, especially with prep right now. It's certain dry joints. Earlier we're doing like tricep kickbacks. In the right elbow, I could feel a little bit more dryness in the joint. So I wanted to pull back on that before I do anything where it's going to hurt myself. So in those situations, if I feel something that feels uncomfortable, I'm going to switch it up. I know there are people out there who are like, just push through it, push through the pain, push through. I'm like, after you go through one injury yourself by doing that kind of aspects, you get a bigger picture that if you keep pushing through those limitations, eventually you will hurt yourself. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but eventually you will hurt yourself when you least expect it. And sometimes it's going to happen in the critical moments too, at the worst time possible. So my biggest thing is listen to your body and go from there. Like, if you feel something that's wrong, make sure that you get it looked at or checked out and back off and just switch it up. I mean, yep. And so they rack it, they switch it up. Because even when people talk about squats, with being the bread and butter for leg development, like I said, with my back, squats do put more. When I'm squatting, the last couple times I squatted, I don't feel a lot of stress in my legs at all, right? The issue is what I feel on the spine, like even when I use like the safety squat bar, that pad, for whatever reason, the way it sits into my neck, it makes me lightheaded. I don't know why, but wherever it sits on my spine is putting pressure somewhere that makes me look more lightheaded, where I get dizzy. But other than that, I get more hip impingement and back pain when squatting, where my legs can do a lot more weight. It's just the fact that these other issues are preventing me from being able to push my maximum load. So, I mean, I'll do a lot more emphasis on leg extensions, leg press, other accessory movements where I can isolate the muscle I'm trying to focus on and be able to get a full workout in, versus letting my pride get the best of me and injuring myself and hurting myself. Because there's been times where it's like I've squatted like tempo, and after I get done, I have so much inflammation that I got to end my workout because it takes me 30 minutes before I can move again. And therefore, it's like, how is that beneficial if you literally have made your workout where you can't keep moving because you're in that much inflammation? So in 2014, I did like the MC Nicole Wilkins, where I weighed in like at 142. Okay. So I depleted down to 142. But because at the same time, I still did my powerlifting, so I was always trying to compete at 148. So, but that point is like, I didn't know anything about bulking, cutting, just did whatever, got leaner. Where to me is like, for me to get lean, I have to do cardio. That's the only way for me to get lean. At least generally speaking, that is, because I love food. But then after that, I mean, still didn't know a whole lot about it. I mean, a lot of times I still cook my own food. Didn't know anything about didn't really know much about measuring out diets, the macros, carbs, whatever. It's just like ounces. Didn't really track as much, right? I was working at Ruby Tuesday. I'd buy like the chicken breast. I'd throw a breast on the stovetop. I mean, cooking chicken on the flat tops in restaurants is the best way to cook it. You can't get better than that. But then after I graduated with my master's degree in business, I moved. My first career job brought me out to Grand Rapids, which is where I've been here since 2015. And when I first got a membership at Maximus, because the gym was right next to my apartment complex, and some of the friends that I developed there, they competed, right? So then just seeing the competition, went to my first prep with John, and that's where I first learned about like 6 meals a day, 5-6 meals a day, macros, carbs, tracking that, and that's when I first got my best understanding of how to diet. And ever since then, I think I've always been stubborn. I mean, going to my family life, it's granted, like, the gym's always been something that's where it just gets me out of the house. I'm not a bar person. To me, is going to the bar is like, drunk people annoy the hell out of me. Let's be honest. So it just comes down to the fact that, all right, just stick with it. And I think sometimes I'm too stubborn to quit in general. And then just seeing the progress It's just getting better and better, bigger, stronger, whatever the case is you may not see it day to day, but over time people acknowledge it, and I think that just helps give me like the self gratification of, all right, I'm doing better than I expected for myself. And at the end of the day, when I say this, is like anyone who competes should only do it for themselves. They shouldn't do it for like the satisfaction of others, because you have to be happy with yourself if you can do whatever you're going to be doing. But then, and with also being healthy, I feel better too. I mean, like I said, my dad is overweight. Seeing him not be able to walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded. As younger, he had a smoker's cough. So growing up, I told myself I would never smoke, which a lot of people say is like to this day I still never smoked cigarettes, or I've never even done weed as well. And more so because I don't want it to be a scapegoat. If I say yes one time, that's going to be like open up like a Pandora's box to God knows what. So I think that's part of my motivation, is in not wanting to be like that, as bad as it sounds. But it's just going forward. And a lot of my friendships, I've built some great friendships throughout the gym, and so the community as well. Now, because I mean, there's pros and cons to the community. There are people who are very cynical, and people who are very all about themselves, very selfish, and they only want gratification in the worst ways possible. But there are other people that are they're positive. It's even though you maybe compete against one another, they still bring you up. They bring the best version out of yourselves. They push you to do better. They push you to do harder. And if you can apply what you learn from bodybuilding, just the process of dedication, sacrifice, and everything else, and apply it to any life situation, it's the application is there. It's like if you put in the work in, you'll get results. Now, if you don't put work in, then if you don't see results, then you'll know why. So it's just like even it has its own life applications in its own sense.
Do you find when you're prepping for a show, bud, like I know some people say, or athletes say, the more they have on their plate, kind of the more efficient they are, like with work and stuff. Or how do you balance it when you get ready for a show like this?
And so the issue with shows is I procrastinate sleep in general. So there have been times I've done cardio at 2 o'clock in the morning because I procrastinated it. So that's one thing I'm not the greatest at, is sometimes that, because I mean I get lazy in certain aspects where I'm just relaxing and I lose track of time. But that's part of my ADHD as well. So that anxiety is not the greatest bit, but so one thing with shows it does is, yes, I mean when you have a schedule, it does push you, because it's like, all right, you need to get something done, so it keeps you on the move. So in times where I wasn't training, I'd get so lazy, whether playing video games, whatever the case is, binge watching TV, that I get nothing accomplished. Then I feel sluggish and whatnot. So with lifting, it does wake you up, gets your body moving. Granted, yes, you are tired after the fact, but it gets you up, moving out and around, and keeps you active. And the more active your body is, the better you feel overall for just longevity, as long as you're not hurting yourself. So, but the only issue with prep though is whenever I go on a diet, prep is the hardest part. It's temptation, because the second you go on a diet and you know you need to prep or cut for something, that's when you crave things that you never craved before. So like I can go into the store, like I'm not an Oreo person. Now I'm in Meijer or whatever the case is, I see the Oreos on the shelf. Oh, those look good. And any given day, that's not something I'd ever buy when I'm not on when I'm just on a daily routine, because it's not something I crave. But I always crave the things I don't care about when I'm on prep, knowing that you're not supposed to eat that, you can't have it. Now you want it, because as I say, you want what you can't have. So that is one of my weaknesses, is giving into temptation. But we all have it. Like I said, I'm not going to lie, I don't stick to the diet 100%. But at the end of the day, what the consistency is it's kind of factored into my diet already. Because, I mean, it's not like I'm going like killing over whatever. But it's still something I got to work on in general, just like my own self-gratitude. But at the end of the day, though, too, is I'm not trying to make a career out of the fitness. Because I do this as a passion. I'm not on social media trying to promote myself, because I see, to me, there's a lot of negative results of social media is people are getting to the point where there's a cutthroat business, and it's all about selfishness and themselves. They don't care about anyone else, and then where social media starts running their lives in a negative way, and especially now politics in general too. I start seeing political things, and it's like I gotta get off Facebook. So I love Instagram more. There's less politics on Facebook, on Instagram, but I get to the thing because then as people realize everything's algorithm based. You start commenting on the things that, let's say, that irk you. That's all you can see through your feed, because through the internet they know what you're looking at. So you only see negative things now. So which you don't want that to affect your life in that situation. So when going back to like the sport, it's like I like doing everything for myself. I don't care if I have 1,000 or 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers, because I like to be more honest. If I were going to promote a product, I'm not going to promote something just to make me money. I have a hard time pushing something that I don't believe in. Because as we were talking about earlier, supplements, I have set brands that I'll stick behind. Like with protein, Diamond Titus Nutrition ISO 100 is hands down my favorite protein brand. Mix it so well in water. Because going back to when I was in high school, I took no supplements. I used to do like the Body Fortress or 6-star shit you get from like Walmart. I'd spoon stir it, the vanilla flavor, and like a coffee mug, and it'd be so clumpy that I'm pretty much like gagging and puking it up because it's that gross. So since then, is vanilla protein I cannot mentally handle, because it just brings me back to that old state. So then as I found this protein where it's something that actually mixes well in water, that has flavor and doesn't taste like really like watered down. And so that's why I stick behind that brand ever since then. And I tried other brands. There's other ones out there good, but it's like this is the one brand for several years now. It's like I truly believe in. Just like amino acids, Extend, because at least for intra workout, the way it mixes in water, it has like the juice flavor, tastes really well. So those are two brands that I will stick behind. Pre-workout is, people say, oh, this is the best pre-workout on the market. Well, with pre-workout, even with some aminos and other things like that, the ingredients are pretty much the same across the board now. Nothing's really proprietary anymore. Everything it's like all clinical dosages. So at the end of the day, just find something that tastes well. If you get the right price on it, that I'll cycle through that stuff. Because I mean, and even then, it's like with me being ADHD, I don't really know how well pre-workout affects me, because caffeine, I don't get caffeine rushes. It doesn't affect me the same way it affects a lot of other people.
I was going to ask you if you're okay answers, but if not, I'll edit this out.
What's that?
I was going to ask you, like, how does that affect your training, being ADHD and stuff? Has it made it more difficult, or?
Depending on, because like I said, I don't sleep well. I've had a sleep study done years ago, and it took me 3-4 years to call on the results. I fell asleep the day I was supposed to do my follow-up. But I recently called in on it, and they had the results, and they said I was averaging 4.5 hours of sleep a night, waking up. My REM sleep is in and out so many times that, yeah, I mean, sleep deprivation is something I've been living with for a long time now. They said, at that point, I may have had mild sleep apnea. He said, once sleeping on my back. So I've had 3 nose surgeries. So I do speak really fast, because I've had 3 nose surgeries. I only breathe out of one nostril. I've had 2 devious septum surgeries done, and 1 with my nasal cavities drilled. And even no. And even after the 3rd surgery, and it wasn't any injury based, even after the 3rd surgery, still can't effectively breathe out of my nose. So I'm a mouth breather. So when I sleep, my mouth's wide open. So with that said, so if I sleep on my back, I'm more likely to get sleep apnea because of that regards. So I'm a side sleeper, but so there'd be moments I wake up with a gasp for air. But yeah, so what that said is, depending on the ADHD does affect my motivation sometimes. I'll come in, start working out, and I feel it's sluggish. My eyelids are just like trying to shut down on me. I can't stay awake. Pre-workout's not doing anything. Then those days I may get to the point where I just have no motivation to even train. I mean, I still go through certain movements, but at those days I'm like, rest is more important. There are other times if I take my Adderall that's prescribed, I'm more talkative. It's because especially right now, being at home all the time, working from home, not being around people. The gym is my social atmosphere. I know there are a lot of people out there who talk about, oh, you go to the gym, you just talk to, like, people are talk about other people like that. Well, for me is the gym is my second home. I love talking to people in that sense of when I'm not home, getting around people. So it's just my way to be able to talk to other people. As I'm not one of those people, I don't text a lot of people. I don't message people on social media. So I do it face to face. Well, the reason is because I mean I'll start texting whatever, and I'm like, I get to the point with my ADHD. I'm not going to respond, or not respond right now. Next thing I forget to respond, and then I look at the thing like, fuck, it's too late now. So I don't respond late. Nothing. I'm like, you know what? It's too late. It's done. Whatever. So, or I'm lazy and I just don't feel like being on my phone, texting, can do something else. Maybe playing a game on my phone. I don't want to be interrupted. So, with that said, it's like, yeah. So I prefer that face-to-face interaction. With that said, and it's just like, and then sometimes I just don't want to go home because I don't want to go home and be lazy. So I try to get my workout and get the pump. But yeah, the Adderall makes it worse because now I'm more talkative, more open, and just more bubbly in that regards. But any day is different, then because I mean, being prep, as you get leaner, your body's more depleted. So sometimes training is just hard in general for a lot of people because your energy levels are already low. Sometimes you feel like you can't get a pump, or your body aches, and it's just like, all right, what do I want to do? And then it's like, all right, so it's whatever you're training on, it's like pull back the ego, stop trying to push like insane weights, and go for like more like a high intensity or higher rep, get the pump and then get the blood flow, just to fine tune the aspects. Because when you're in a calorie deficit, you're not growing muscle. So when people say, oh, they gain muscle on this calorie deficit, I'm like, are you sure about that? They may be leaner, but did they really gain muscle? In most situations, no, because what people need to realize is when you lose weight, it's a combination of fat, muscle, and water. And if you lose weight at a lot faster exponential rate, I'll use like the Biggest Loser as an example, how quickly they lose weight. The early weight a lot of people lose is water weight. So when people talk about carbs, oh my God, I gained 10 pounds, blah, 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 overnight. No, the carbs is, because carbs is glycogen. So you are retaining more water weight. You go on a zero carb diet, you lose a lot of weight fast because you're depleting your glycogen levels. You're depleting your water storage. So a lot of people have misconceptions with how carbs affect your body weight because it's not fat or muscle at that point, it's water. But when you are losing weight beyond that from big calorie deficit, if you lose weight, like I said, Biggest Loser style really fast, you're going to lose muscle at a faster rate than if you do a slower cut. Because your body is now using that muscle as energy. So when you're impatient with something, you lose at a fast rate. Just like in the off season, if you're going to gain weight, you need to do so at a more moderate pace. You don't put on 50 pounds overnight and then just expect it to be mostly muscle. If you put on weight at a sloppy rate, because I see people, they'll put on like 50 pounds of sloppy weight, and by this I'm saying the smaller guys that compete at 160, now it's 210, and they put on, but they look fat, sloppy. But then, second they get to that peak weight, they're not cutting again. Because what happens is, you cut that fat you just put on. A lot of times you cut more muscle than you actually put on in that process. So at the end of that next cut, you weigh less. You have less muscle than you did before. If you do things like you try to bulk really fast and cut really fast, that's the negative factor of it. Is a lot of times I believe once you get to a peak weight that you're trying to gain to, hold that weight for a couple months. Allow your body to get used to that weight, because over time what's going to happen is you may be able to recomp a little bit where some of that weight, you're maintaining the weight, but some of that fat is now more so going to muscle, so you're getting a little bit leaner at that same body weight, and then when you cut, you have more solidified muscle, and we cut slower too. So it's just make sure when any cutting, bulking, whatever the case is, that you're being very relative in doing so in like a controlled manner. So that way, because your body's whatever. Because I mean, if you put a lot of weight on really quick, think about it, your body, your organs, they're gonna fight you. Because there's a lot of stress you're putting on your body. So, and at the end of the day, though, is if you have health things, is you gotta get getting blood work done, getting checked, because if you're having high blood pressure, because then you can lead to blood clots, depending on who, whatever. Everyone's different. Everyone's genetics are different too on what they're predisposed to. So it's just the big thing I see too is it's just a lot of people is they want to do all these things, but they won't take preventative maintenance to correct any issues they have. And I think that's one of the most important things is when people ask them, they're like, I can't answer that question because I don't know how it's affecting your body. Because all of our metabolisms are different. Just even with foods, like some people are more sensitive to different types of foods, like red meat, fish, chicken. Different blood types or whatever the case, may digest food more effectively than other people.
Not everything's universal.
Yeah, without things being universal, it's like what works for me may not work for you. So when people start giving out diets, like, oh, this is what I did, so here you go. I'm like, that's not how it works, because everyone's differently, and even with diets, it's like one of the big things for someone to stay on a diet is it has to be something that you can handle, right? In my diet, I'm not doing fish right now. Is because I cook like 4 days of the food at once. I hate microwave fish, and I am too lazy because I don't want to clean dishes of cooking fish every day. So with that said, is like I do more chicken, or I do like turkey breast or other lean meats. In comparison, more egg whites, something that I prefer that I will stick to. Because if I'm not going to stick to certain food groups, I'm more likely to say screw it and then go off the deep end. So that's one big thing with diets if there's certain foods that you will not stick to, you need to find an alternative.
People you'd like to thank, bud? Friends, family, and coaches?
I mean, I like to thank John, because I mean, like I said, just like the Maximus community in general, because I mean, ultimately that's what got me mostly into bodybuilding, outside of when I lived in Midland. Because I mean, even like I said, when I did my first show, I knew nothing about it. I still knew nothing about the bodybuilding community. But then like other people like who always stood by me, like my buddy Kevin, my buddy Ken, like people like them, Ricky. It's always motivated me, like bringing me up. It's always nice to see like that community come together and stuff like along those lines. So it's just like everyone who's like just supportive of other people. And even at this past show when I did the Western, is people I've never met before giving me compliments. Like, to be honest, like I said, this being a prep show, is I didn't expect it to be as hard as I may have looked. I wasn't going in there expecting to do that well. I'll be honest, because I mean, I have 4 more weeks. I did nothing crazy for the peak, but I got a lot better feedback, compliments from other people, and it was just nice to see strangers approach me like that and give me some great feedback and information. And that's what I love about the community is being able to approach other people and being friendly and courtesy, even if they're in that moment, even if they're your competitors, even if you're going against them. At the end of the day, is don't let a placement or a competition get in the way of your pride. Because in bodybuilding, generally speaking, we all work hard to be on that stage. There's going to be one winner. And judges all look at something different. Some people are like, I had better conditioning. This is crap. I didn't win. Well, there's conditioning is a factor. You have people who are like, well, he only won because you got muscularity is an issue. But you get people that look at the combination of both of what's the most aesthetic. So there's multiple factors that judges look at. But at the end of the day, it's like, don't let the negativity control you. We all want to win going on that show, but winning, if that's all you care about is winning, you're not going to do well in life. Because if you want to be the best at something, what you do is you hang out with people who are better than you. That's how you learn. Is like if someone has more potential, if you're always the best, how do you get better? So if you win by default, but yet you're not going against any real competition, how can you say you're the best? If you understand where I'm coming from there. That's when a lot of people, you see they do local shows, then they go to the national show, and then I even experienced that. I mean, then you get killed from all. Cause now you're going against all these other people who've done well at these shows. Now you're going to get some of the best in the amateur division that is. But that's part of it. And then just set the pride aside. Find a new game plan. Figure out what your goals are. For me, if I go pro or I don't go pro, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, I'd love to go to the Nationals and get my pro card. But because my plan after Nationals is to take a nice off season, and the goal would be not to be able to hit middleweight again. Put on size, because I'm at that point now where yes, I can cut enough water weight out to make weight, but I want time now. For me, I want to go beyond that. So then it's like, because the weight cap from middleweight is 176 and a quarter up to 198 for light heavy. The class is smaller than that. I mean, you have a smaller gap between like lightweight and welterweight and middleweight. And then you have this big 20-some pound gap from lightweight to whatever. So, I mean, if I compete again after this, I want to be 195 on stage, 198, the top of the class, most muscle. And that's 5, 10, 20 pounds of muscle is a lot of, if you want solid muscle, that's a lot of time it takes to develop that. So then we take a nice off season, just grow, relax, and then be able to enjoy life. Because one thing that sucks about prep is prepping always through the holidays, which I've been doing for the past couple years now. So I do want to apologize to my grandma, because I have snapped at her because like isn't this healthy? Isn't that healthy? I'm grandma. I have a certain meal plan. I'm sorry. So I got already planned out, prepped out. I got my calories. It's not about whether food's healthy or not. It's about if you're on a set plan of not divulging of other items or foods. So when people don't understand certain things, it's like hard to like get it through. So I do apologize only because I'm like, please stop asking me. It's like, so I mean, part of the brain is like just getting annoyed of when someone just like keeps going back and forth over the same thing. But so it'd be nice to be able to relax and enjoy those things and not have to worry about it. Is because the holidays come around. I'm not saying eat like an asshole on every holiday, but foods I do enjoy. So with Nationals being the week before Christmas, so after that, I am a little bit worried that, because I tell myself I want to stay tight afterwards, but coming off, I know I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed than I tend to be, let's be honest. Going to their holidays, haven't been able to eat all this time, skipping that. I still need to find a motivation to keep doing cardio, to keep like the water weight off, and take a nice slow controlled reverse out is the plan. But I'll be honest, I can't say that's going to happen for sure based on past experiences.